So we're going to start off with Robyn Ward. She's the Director of Sales and Business Development for BetterWorks, and she's going to talk to us about people.
I am. So in order to talk to you about people, I need to get a really good idea of who the people in this little circle are and what company you're from, and then just also the size of the company is really helpful. So.
Hi, I'm Shannon Turner. I'm with DDB Worldwide. We have a small office here in Los Angeles. It's about 40 people. I'm a group account director, so I manage a team of other account people, and we then manage every function within the agency: creative, production, media, etc.
I'm Shivani Saroya, and I'm the CEO of Inventure. We're based in Santa Monica, and we're a team of 5 people right now. And what we do is we develop financial products, financial tracking tools, and customized guidance for micro businesses around the world. And we provide that through the internet and through mobile technology.
Hey, I'm Nicole Safani, and I work at Mobile Roadie. Mobile Roadie is a company that makes it easy for anyone to create and manage an app. My role is head of VIP client services and partner relations. I'm pretty new, I'm about 3 weeks in. And there are 23 people in our LA office. We have 4 in London, and we have sales reps around the world.
I'm Jen. I started a company called Knock Knock almost 10 years ago. We are not tech, and we, in fact, we're paper.
But you sell through a website.
But we sell through a website, exactly. And my company is in Venice, and we're about 25 people.
I'm Talia Goldstein. I'm CEO of 3 Day Rule, which is a dating website, and we have 4 employees.
I'm Kim Kohatsu. I'm Director of Marketing for CallFire. We have about 20 employees, but we've acquired probably half of those employees in the past 6 months. So it's been kind of an interesting shift.
Hi, I'm Alex Capehart. I'm probably the luckiest guy here at this event because I'm surrounded by all these awesome ladies. And I'm the VP of Business Development at Media Temple. We're a 10-year-old company here in LA, and we do web hosting and services infrastructure for all kinds of companies. And I'm waiting to hear from Robyn.
All right, awesome. Well, we have a really great group. And I think what I wanted to talk about most is one thing that is common in between every company we heard, whether you're on the web or not, is that people are the most important asset that a company has, right? It's whether you have whatever type of company that you have. And Jack Welch, who I'm a big fan of, and I read all of his books, he's famously stated that the most important number 2 any CEO should have is the HR person. And it shocks a ton of people because they're thinking it's the CFO or the COO, which is really how most organizations are set up, but it's really not. It's the human resources person. You don't have a bottom line if you don't have people creating your product, right? Or if you're a tech company, you don't have that many people creating your website to flow down through performance and at the end of the day, productivity and profit. So it's something that at BetterWorks we really focus on is it's all about the people, right? And so we've created a small and medium business product, but really people obviously are important at every level of an organization. But what I want to focus on is really talking about sort of the science of culture and how important it is, and I like to ask questions about how you think your business defines its culture and how you would define the levels of engagement at your company. And then I would also like to talk about some topics that you guys might have interest in or have some valid comments on in terms of growth and being in a smaller business and high growth, or being in a division of a larger company. You might have a neat different aspect of how you guys handle people in your 40-person office, and you're part of how many people is DDB Worldwide? Thousands, right? 10,000. Right, exactly. So you would kind of have the flop perspective, so that might be very interesting. But I guess my first question would be, does anybody have a defined culture in a company?
Define meaning in writing?
Yeah. You do, right? Absolutely. What's your culture? What's your...
Well, we started out by trying to create value pillars, basically. And so we have 4, which is sustainability, responsiveness, accessibility, and then kind of fun.
Yeah.
So kind of having that work-life balance is one of ours as well. But in everything we do, from the way we run the organization to the business model to our marketing, everything revolves around those 4 specific things.
So that's amazing. Anybody else have something that's that on point for a company?
I mean, we've worked really hard at Media Temple, and we do have 4 pillars of growth, and I think we're still defining it. It's still an ongoing job. Our CEOs actually had a focus group started with everybody in the company, anybody that wanted to be a stakeholder and take part in defining what the company culture is. We've had some challenges. We grew very, very rapidly from 25 to 200 people. And so we went from being in one building to 3. And keeping that culture and the same kind of culture alive is something we've worked really, really hard at. So
Yes, it does take a lot of work. That's not for me, that's for her. But I love you. Keep giving it to me, and I want to take the mic and be like, all right, karaoke. So we do, at BetterWorks, you can actually read ours on our website. We have our 8 core values. So if you really think about culture, and Jen, you're my literary and linguist, but it's really the behaviors and characteristics that define a group, right? So it's a social group or an age group, and so it is your company. So it's always very impactful to state what those values or underlying beliefs of your company are, just like you did. I mean, that was beautiful, and that's amazing, and you're going to be able to attract people. And what happens is people get passionate about their mission of their company, their vision of their company, and their values. And so having all 3 of those things written in the break room or in the kitchen or on your website, that's really what the company stands for. So it's just like when you align yourself with a friend, right? When I look for a friend, I like Alex because I like his values. I know what he's about. I know what he believes in. That's what people look for in a company, right? So like where you work is no different from who you align your friend circle with. And people really want to be engaged in their company. And in order to do that, you have to have a very strongly defined culture. People can tie themselves to it. People feel passionate about it. Having fun be a part of your company culture is hugely important, right? But in defining it, maybe a little bit more in terms of, also what exactly does that mean, and when it comes down to a culture, it's also very important to assess your rewards and recognition program, right? So what happens when people do a really good job? How well defined are their roles, and are they receiving feedback, right? So I'm going to go through later in a little more formalized way. I've got actually 12 questions that Gallup runs that you can actually ask your employees in a survey to determine the engagement and then the power of the culture in your company. So I actually wanted to have one really great takeaway rather than shooting the shit. I can't believe I'm on that right now. So anyway, so if we talk about culture and we talk about engagement, does anybody here work at a company that has a pretty formalized reward and recognition program?
in our customer service department, we do have kudos system, and that's based on if you get enough kudos, you do get gift cards or other rewards like that. And that is something, and we also have a comp plan, of course, in our sales department.
Yeah.
But that's something that is built out. It started off very much as employee. It was a very bottom-up decision to do. And once we saw what was happening, and that's where I think everything we try to do is very bottom-up. We kind of see things that are kind of happening on the floor, the customer service department, and then try to formalize it and turn it into something.
Right.
So it just keeps listening to all the employees. So
it's very important to be listening to the employees. I think it has to be bottom up, but going back to my man Jack Welch, it really has to be top down. If the CEO doesn't have, and again, smaller companies don't have an HR team, but if the CEO does not have that focus on people, or the CEO does not believe that the HR is number two and it's about the people, then what's going to happen is it's very hard to keep that culture. It's very hard to do rewards and recognition, because what happens is you get an environment where people say, well, your pay is your reward. You work here, we pay you. And if you have the CFO, number two to the CEO, you often just have people are cog. People are an expense. What you need to look at is people being the creators of the company and the innovators and the revenue drivers. So it's a great point to be able to listen from the bottom up, but sometimes that takes a long time in an organization, particularly a 10,000 person organization. How would that trickle up, right? If you've got 5 and you have one loud person like me, you could be like, hey, I want a reward. But I think that the really interesting thing also is looking at human behavior. So where most companies think about is, a lot of the smaller companies and newer companies, you're working, not 9 to 5 jobs, right? And sometimes it's a weekend job. And the thing is you think everybody's having fun because it might be a younger culture, or maybe you did a happy hour. But there are really specific things related to whether or not a person actually is engaged and happy with that job. So the thing that I like to say to a lot of our customers is, when we're talking about this, like maybe a lot of people, it'll be interesting to see how many people come over to my people talk. A lot of people think that's touchy-feely. Like they're gonna come over here and have a touchy-feely kind of gray conversation about satisfaction and happiness. People is black and white. People drives your bottom line. 50% higher customer loyalty, 50% higher revenues, and 27% higher profits at companies that are in the top engagement quartile of Gallup. So there's actually like a real black and white bottom line impact to people, which it's funny because you have conferences where people, go to marketing, and you have conferences where people go to technology, and you've got all of these other tables that were jam-packed for people to go listen to. And really, at the end of the day, you're not going to build a sustainable, high growth company unless you have the right culture at the beginning, you have the right people at the beginning, and then you have a very, very tight process of how you determine, is that next hire a fit for our culture? Is that next hire a fit for our culture? Because it's really not just about skill set, it's about, do they fit with the team? And then within that, when you're hiring, it's very important when you hire, again, particularly at a tech company, but any company, to make sure that when you're hiring, you're telling them, here's our values, here's our vision, here's our mission. You want to make sure they have the buy-in, and then also you want to say, here's our rewards program, here's our recognition. It's actually going to speak to the culture of the company if you talk in the hiring process about, listen, we're not a company that does a performance-based, review maybe once a year, or you get a bonus at the end of the year. We're real time. We think about this daily. We know that your impact is on a daily basis. It's behavioral science. Everybody wants a good job if they felt like they did a good job. They don't want a good job 6 months later in a report that said, remember on last August when you did something neat? Great, and here's like $10. What they want is, great job, pat on the back, some sort of kudos, some sort of, even if it's, a gift certificate, obviously going back to the BetterWorks system, whether it's points towards a perks program. This is what people want, and they want to feel good about their jobs, and when they feel good about your job, they sell your company better, and they sell your product better, and the customer service supports your product better. So that's how you trickle down from going all the way to the top to the bottom line, just talking about people, which again, most people will say is the most important asset of a company. Yet again, my little square here was probably the lowest recruiting of all of these numbers. So
no, that would actually be the CallFire table.
Right? Oh, is it? Okay, good. Good. I will school everybody though. Like this to me is, the most important topic that you can talk about. So I guess, does anybody have any questions?
I just wanted to interject something too, because I actually worked at another ad agency actually, where we would have a monthly meeting, and I think that there was some form of recognition. We would get gas cards, or we would get called out and congratulated and what have you. But I think because the monetary aspect wasn't the best, and because the culture wasn't that strong, it kind of rang hollow for us, because it's really nice to say like, oh great, thanks for the gas card, like wish I actually liked this job,
Right.
So,
Yeah.
So I think that I definitely believe in rewarding work, and I just feel like maybe it's too easy for a company to say, here's something that we did for you, now our job is done.
So, I'm not here to sell my product, but you teed me up, because the whole point is that by building the BetterWorks platform, which is really just an outsourced solution for companies, it's the whole concept is choice, right? So you put dollars into the platform, but you can spend it on your lunch, you can spend it on food, you can spend it on education services, you can spend it on pet walking. You get to spend it where you want. So instead of the company saying, here's Disneyland and I don't have kids and I'm never going to go at a discount, or here's another meal at the steakhouse, or here's another happy hour when maybe that's not what somebody values, right? Not everybody goes to the happy hour. It's like, here's a pat on the back, and here's a way for you to spend it in the way that you choose. So I actually think Cornerstone On Demand, which is a LA company that went public that I actually really love, and they're not a client, so full disclosure, but they have the word empower in their foyer of their office, and then they have the biggest company photo blown up. And I just really think that it comes down in today's day and age to empowering your people, right? That's what they want. So they want the choice. They want to know that you value them, and they want to know that you reward them, but then they don't want the gas card. They want it to be a creative experience, an option experience. They don't want you to send them to the gym if they want a massage or they want their nails done. So I think that if companies step out of the box and stop doing the easy thing, which is like, can I get Target cards and can I get gas cards? And let a company like us actually plan it and do it for you. That's probably a better way to go because you're going to be able to have more time to think about that stuff.
Right.
And part of the idea is HR departments, if they exist, have a lot of other things to do, including hiring when you're a high growth company.
Yeah.
So them going out and getting discounts or them making sure that they don't just have gas cards probably isn't going to happen. They're doing all they can to do it. So it's like, why not go outside of the company and get something set up that's really going to take everything into account?
Yeah.
So I guess one of my questions is, with startups, a lot of us had, very few employees,
Yeah.
right? Is it really the best thing to single people out and kind of reward them, or to do, at least when you're small, to kind of keep doing team building rewards and things like that as a group?
That's a really great question. Both of them are hugely important. You've got to build the team together, but we all know when we say teamwork that the number one person in your life is your I, right? And not even to be selfish, because as we've all learned from Oprah, you can't love others unless you love yourself and take care of yourself, right? So I just quoted Oprah. So anyway, the whole point is that you do have to do a mixture of both. And one of the things, at least with our system, is when you go in and send somebody like the deal dollars to go get a service or a massage, I mean, it is private, right? You're not sending that to the company. But I think that if you're doing the team building right and you have 5 people and you call someone out for doing a good job, nobody's more excited for that person than the other 4 people. Mm-hmm. That's what a team is. Anybody else? How about you, Shannon? Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think? You're a big Jack Welch fan. I haven't read any of his books yet, but what do you think is the best, maybe gold standard example of a company practicing a lot of the principles that you're talking about? And then the other question I have is, are you aware of a case where there was a huge mistake or something within a company, but they learned from it and they corrected it and kind of learned from their mistakes?
Let me think about the second one.
Okay.
And I'll answer the first one. There's a company in town called Hulu. I don't know who's probably familiar with Hulu. They are amazing, and they have sort of a head of culture that has studied like human behavior and people at work for years. His name is John Foster. You can actually look him up online. But so they have taken into consideration just about everything. Now they're what you maybe would consider liberal for a company in terms of their thought process. They're very forward thinking in advance. So this may not be for every company. But, and you may have heard of this, but they have the stand-up desks. So I don't know if you've, lots of reading about how sitting down all day and scrunching like this and being online actually obviously is not good for you physically, but in terms of innovation and keeping the blood flowing and pumping, and as to have these stand-up desks, right? So they've got the stand-up desks in their office. They actually, I don't want to give away too many details of their plan because I don't, that it's all public, but they actually give allowances out to their folks to be used in a very, you get to choose how you want to spend this fashion. They're actually testing using BetterWorks. They're a BetterWorks client because when we met with them, they were so interesting. John was like, this is amazing. This is what I'm trying to do internally, but I'm not a whole company. So we want you guys to go solve this problem and we'll give you, feedback. And so they've been amazingly helpful to us, but that's a company that has grown leaps and bounds, has a very tight culture. If you meet a Hulu person on the street, you will know that they are a Hulu person within a half of a second. They're the proudest, I work at Hulu, I'm ready to go. So I think in terms of an LA company, everybody likes to use Google as an example, and it's just there's so many other companies than Google. And I can't give you all of the names, but we call on every type of business. So really, I've spoken with law firms that do amazing things that bring in-house massage on every third Friday. So really, I think that companies are catching on to this and people are really understanding. And I think no matter what the industry, I've probably talked to a company in each industry that is trying to do at least some innovative stuff. But Hulu, for my mind, in LA has got to be one of the most innovative. So when you say mistake, do you mean a people mistake, a growth mistake?
People. Is there a company?
I have two. Oh, a company. Well, I couldn't, yeah. So I would say that,
from your mistakes
yeah,
is
so,
such a great thing, and a lot
yeah.
of people see that as they don't want to admit
Yeah.
to a mistake.
I agree.
but you can position that in a very positive way.
Right.
Especially if you are a small company, maybe you're not getting it all right at the first time.
Right.
And then you say, you know what, we thought we were on the right track and we did some employee surveys, or
Yeah.
we learned this and this, and we weren't, and we
Right.
did this, and then
Yeah.
wow, that's a great
So you're
story.
talking to the right person. So I've been at 5 startups, and all we do is pivot and make mistakes.
Yeah.
That's how you learn and get to where you are. So I can tell you to lots of them, but I would just say in general, in the context of a people conversation, one of the biggest mistakes is if you yourselves at a senior level at a business can't lay out the core values of your company, don't know your mission statement, and don't know your vision statement off the top of your head, because you're the leader, and how is that going down to the team? So I love all the time, people are like, we have a great culture. And now that I'm at a company and I've been doing all of this sort of research and really into it, I'm always like, what does that mean to you? What is your culture? And I can tell you that very few people can answer. I am so impressed with you and you starting this company and leading it and having those 4 pillars. It's amazing, and you want to start it from day one. I'll tell you something else that you actually said, which is amazing. How many people do not have suggestion boxes next to their break room? When you said like employee survey, this is not done from, we talked about top down, but this is the reason why you need the bottom up to sort of make the sandwich, is that you're not doing this in a bubble. So a suggestion box in every company, I have always put it up, because people, especially once, this is a good growth conversation. When you're at 5 and 10, you'll tell everybody what you think, because you're moving as a team. When you're at 15 and 20, maybe. At 20 to 25, people start dropping off or compartmentalizing in their groups, and you don't have all of the sharing that you used to. So in order to keep some of that culture going, you need to make sure, again, that you do events that kind of commingle people, but that you have a suggestion box, because we have an all-hands meeting. Another suggestion, always have an all-hands meeting, tells everyone in the company what's going on, and everybody still feels involved, right? But at the early days of the all-hands meeting, our CEO would say, anybody have questions or comments or ideas, how can we improve ourselves? Everybody, right? We're at 30-something people. We still have a very engaged group, but it does wane. It doesn't stay like that over time. When we have 150 people, we're going to have a different all-hands meeting. So the idea of having these suggestion boxes around the office, people use them. I have done it at 4 companies, and people will drop things in, and it's people things. Sometimes it's great ideas for your business if they're just a quieter type of personality. The other thing that you had mentioned was the employee surveys. I say all the time, when's the last time you did an employee survey? And people are like, oh, surveys, that's going to be really weird. Guess what? The best way to understand if your people are engaged in your company, are happy with their job, are going to stay, right, at your job, and get some feedback, is everybody here and staying, is to do an employee survey. Wouldn't that really actually be refreshing if you think about it? Be like, oh, how do we do that? Wouldn't that be weird? What if you were just at work one day and all of a sudden you got an employee survey? Hey, we want to know what's going on. We want to make sure we have our finger on the pulse of the company and ask really great questions, right? Like, do you have the tools you need to do your job on a daily basis, right? Are we doing enough team building events to build trust in this culture, right? And I bet you people would be blown away by that and think that was a really neat thing to do, rather than think, oh, this is really cheesy. I got an employee survey today. It would be like, wow, because I'm going to bet that they would say, I've never been in a company who actually sent me a survey about how I'm feeling about the company, right?
Yeah, it shows you care. And
Yeah.
Also, people like to be a little anonymous with that kind of thing. Because
Right.
Especially now with the economy, nobody wants to rock the boat. So
Right.
talk about really shutting people down where, in a smaller company, like you said, people are very vocal. But even in smaller companies, I think with the economy the way it is, they may not be voicing their opinions.
Right.
And they may not be sharing ideas that they think are great, that the CEO may think is great, because
Yeah.
people are a little timid. And
Right.
So you're gaining a lot of knowledge, I think, when you have these surveys and people can just kind of spill out what they want. And I'm glad that you mentioned the whole suggestion box thing,
Yeah.
because it sounds very kind of 1970s. Or
Oh, it's very
whatever,
old school.
Target.
Shannon, I'm old school. You put the box up and people will drop in and you read. Not everything needs to be high tech.
Yeah, but it's such a great thing, and some old school things are fantastic, and I think that's one, because if I were the CEO of a company, if I put my suggestion box out, I might as well just put a target bullseye on it. But if I care, I want that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to hear all the bad.
Which is why,
Because
yeah.
you may not be picking up on something that's not so great, or something that's unraveling, and you can take care of it right away. So I like that.
Well, so here's the thing is that I wish I brought my little stats and then I didn't bring it out here since it's at my table, but 48-ish% of workers are disengaged. 48%. 33% of workers are actively looking for their next job. So I don't care what company thinks that they're that great or we're a cool tech company, it's not happening to us. Those numbers are astonishing if you really think about it, right? And literally it's something $300 billion is lost a year on disengaged workers. Because here's the thing, disengaged does not also only mean that they're gonna leave. A lot of people are disengaged and just scared, or they don't have another place to go for a job because it's a recession. So you lose from the people that actually you don't keep, because we all know it's like, 1.5x when you lose a job, hiring costs to get somebody back in and get your productivity up. But then you actually lose on the people that are there that are not saying positive things about the company, they're not fired up, they're not selling the way they could be, there could be somebody else there and getting more revenue. So the numbers around this, again, when I got into the black and white, the numbers around engagement, and then there's a Gallup survey that I'll share with everybody if anybody wants to email me, that is amazing, and it really takes it from the top down. But it's really wild to me that you could say 48% of workers in the U.S. are disengaged.
Yeah.
2 minutes. The speed round. Does anybody have anything else? Yeah.
What are some of the best tactics for encouraging company culture?
Okay, so events, right? So in any given week, do a Bagel Friday, do a Pizza Wednesday, right? It depends on the size of the company, but I'm a big fan of, if you're a company, let's say 20 or below, do a Wednesday lunch. That's lunch during the day, because what happens is you've just started growing, and before you all were in the same room and now they're separate rooms. That Wednesday lunch is the time where across teams, people learn about what's going on in the company, and then you make sure you keep those friendships so that you don't become siloed. I think one of the biggest worries of any tech company that's growing, and then you go into 3 buildings, is that you build silos. So anything that doesn't build a silo is really great. But I would say the most important things are the events that you can do, fairly inexpensive, and then an all hands meeting, right? You get too big, then maybe you have to go to some conference thing. But when you're still to the size where there's some room that you can have people sit in, you do it once a month and you talk about what your revenue. Transparency is key. People want a transparent company. They don't want to feel like they don't know what's going on at their company, because then how can they be passionate about it and how can they back it, right? So that transparency completely affects the level of engagement. So you sit in the meeting and you say, here's what we did. It's fine to say we didn't miss a goal. Fire people up to get the next goal, right? But actually make sure that they know what's going on with the growing business, or we won an account Y, we lost an account Y. Otherwise, people start to do the rumor mill and they start talking and they want to know, right? Same thing as if somebody's hired and somebody leaves. When you're starting to go really quickly, all of a sudden people are like, well, I don't even know who that guy is. That should never happen. There should be a loop for an introduction process to everybody that's hired, whether it's sent via an email with a picture and here's his favorite color, right? So you know somebody in the office. When somebody leaves, the worst thing is it's all of a sudden somebody's gone. Where'd he go? Where'd that person go? You've got to be totally upfront with your people. That's what I think. I think it's, this whole conversation could have been summed up in again, treating the people want your company, or the same feeling from working at a company, to be the same feeling of love they get from a friendship or a relationship. It's like trust, it's feeling loved, it's feeling rewarded, it's feeling like you have an impact on the company and you know what's going on with the company. When you lose those things, people become less satisfied and then they become disengaged, and then you start to really have some sustainability issues.
It's so simple, but people just forget.
You're right.
Really, really simple things. Again, we're at the end of the day, we're all human beings, and yes, this is our job. And some people can say, oh, well, this is professional, it's not personal or whatever. There's always personal elements in it. And all these little things that we've talked about, whether they're tactical or strategic, they're so simple. Just think about how you would want to be treated in a work environment, out of a work environment. It's just amazing how many companies just don't do it. And a lot of the things that we talk about don't cost any money.
Right.
That's the great thing.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. Great.